And we are live once again. Elden Ring. We got Doc and Kai kicking us off in the chat. Ayo! Tonight, dear readers, we're going to figure out what our next build shall be. So, here we are. Obviously got our starting classes. So we need to figure this out. So Doc and Kai, you're gonna help me out. So I've got some ideas in mind, of course. Nothing fully fleshed out. So basically, my ideas currently, one is a pyromancer, so specializing in pyromancies, aka the incantations that are all the fire ones. Not necessarily black flame, though. We've done some black flame stuff, but also weapons with, fire capabilities. That's one. Oh, flame. That's actually an incantation. Oh, flame. That is an incantation in the game. So, that's one idea. Actually, let me try something here. I think, yeah. So we have, I'm going to start a poll here. So we have Pyromancer. Another one that I've been thinking of is a, excuse me, is a gravity-based, I don't want to say knight, but I don't want to say a mage. It's kind of a weird mixture of using gravity weapons, like on the heavier side, in-game, I should say, where we want to go, is things like, there's the Ruin's Greatsword, which is really cool looking. I've never used it, though. There's also the Star Scourge Greatsword, so the big swords that Radahn uses, using that as well, along with, paired with, gravity sorceries as well. So that's another one. Let's see, we've got gravity. I'll just put gravity. So that's another. And then, another idea I've been having is trying to use different weapons that I don't normally use. Now, granted, I've used the Star Scourge Greatswords offline for about this long, so I'm not too familiar with it. Ruin's Greatsword I've never used. Pyromancer, I mean, I've used a lot of the different pyromancy incantations in the game. And then, as far as weapons, you can infuse a ton of weapons with fire and flame art, so we got lots of choices. However, weapons that I don't normally use, like at all, there are straight swords. I've used curved swords a little bit to like start and bleed builds, so not those. But then you get like thrusting swords, stuff like that. And that thrusting sword specifically brings me to a potential, what is called a duelist build. So essentially, you've got your two thrusting swords, and you're just stab, 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 poke, 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 stuff like that. Another one I saw, I forget who it was. I really wish, because I'd give them a shout out, because the build looked entertaining. They were using a whip. They were doing some parries, and then when they would grab a parry, they would stab with a knife. It was kind of this like interesting, different build. Plus the fashion looked cool as well. But yeah, I don't know what I would call that. But I've never used whips. That's my thing. I've never used whips. In any Souls game ever, I have never used whips. So this would be whips. Let me see. If I put duelist, let me clarify. That would be thrusting swords. Other than that, trying to think if there have been any others that I haven't gotten to. I mean, we could always go back and redo, like, there's the Snow Witch one, which I think we kind of limited ourselves immediately, and we may need to broaden our horizons and eventually become, you know, Frosty. I've wanted to experiment with the idea of a fire and ice build, because if you proc Frostbite on an enemy, which will take a little chunk of their health away, similar to Bleed, you can immediately reset that effect with fire, and so then, in theory, you could keep it going. I don't know, as far as, like, weapons that apply effects quick, or statuses quickly. There's things like your twin blades, different swords, daggers, all that. So if I can't add a choice. But let's see. Kai asked a little bit ago, are there mage? Are you asking if there are mage robes? If you're asking that, then yes. If we look at the astrologer, for example, they start with mage robes as well, like a Sub-Zero or Scorpion build. Yeah, it'd kind of be like a combination of the two, if you will. Sub-Zero and Scorpion, the fire, the ice. But as far as, like, which weapons, I have no idea. Like, I genuinely have no idea what I would go with. But I'm gonna put this poll on here. Let's see if it... There we go. So I'll do these. And maybe we can, you know, see out of these which ones we like. And if there's one that stands out, cool. If not, cool. Pure Mage, I have done that before. Now, granted, I had a melee weapon as a backup, just in case, because what happens if we run out of FP? Well, you gotta have something. So I've you know, basically done a mage that that had a weapon of some kind. Yeah, I've done that. But it looks like you guys are kind of split. Got Pyromancer, got the Duelist with the thrusting swords. The Duelist would do much better in a PvP scenario than a Pyromancer, at least in my humble opinion. Now, granted, a Pyromancer could do just fine, but you'd have to really be good at, like, the manual aims, because if you try to do lock-ons in PvP with most incantations, it's not happening. But yeah, that's the current idea, or ideas that I've been thinking about. I know previously I was asked, I believe it was by Mr. Christoph, about resuming the assassin build. And I really don't know what I want to do with it, because I know I need to tweak it, I know I need to change it, but I just don't know which one. But currently I'll end that poll. Essentially, we got a split between Pyromancer and the thrusting swords. I think, let me look at something here. Thrusting swords and Elden Ring specifics. So there are a few. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 total thrusting swords. And a couple you can get relatively early-ish. Some would be later. The one I would probably end up wanting to use would be the Cleanrot Knight's sword. A couple of those. Why not both? Sorry, I keep clearing my throat. I was eating something a little while ago, and it got stuck in my throat, and so even though it's not there anymore, it just still feels like there's something. So I'm like, it's one of those weird feelings. It's like, it feels like something's here, but there's nothing there. It's all in the mind, man. But as far as why not both? So could we do... Actually, we could. We could. Battle mage that uses swords and magic. Yeah, there's that. But Kai brings up an interesting point. What we could do is take 2 thrusting swords. We could throw on some different Ashes of War. Like, for example, if I look at fire, I'm just looking at a couple of different ones. Like, if we have the Estoc, the Prisoner starts with that. But the Prisoner also has more magic-leaning capabilities. And if we want to go Pyro, then we would need more faith. So something like a Confessor or a Prophet have a bit more faith. In fact, I can show the attributes here. So Prisoner, if we're looking, they're more dexterity and intelligence. There's something like that. The Confessor was what we used to start, I believe, the Darth Maul and Reaper one. There's also Wretch. You start with a club. But then as far as faith goes, the Prophet has the highest starting faith, if I remember correctly. Lower intelligence, stuff like that. And they start with Spear, if I remember correctly. But they also start with, I think it's Catch Flame, the Pyromancy, as well. So there's a couple options. And Vagabond is actually just a really good all-around starting class. Because on the Int, Faith, and Arcane side, it's nice and low, so you can, you know, kind of put your points in where you need. Starts with good armor, but we've been there. We've done that. I like the idea of starting with, I believe the shield the Prisoner starts with, too, is actually a decent shield, too. Faith is like magic. It's... I don't want to say the two sides of the same coin. One uses intelligence, so intelligence, magic. That's what you can think of. Faith is like your... They used to be called miracles, but they're incantations now. So there's like healing stuff, there's the fireballs and stuff like that. It's basically what we've used with a couple of builds. So incantations there are a lot of buff incantations as far as like the Flame Grant Me Strength that we use, Golden Vow. Those are all incantations that require faith. Yeah, so it's a little different. Little different. They're similar in that, you know, they're kind of these special schools. What's magic? Magic's sorceries is what it is. So it's like shooting, you know, spells and stuff like that. So like, you know, you can shoot little balls of magic. You can do, you can kind of conjure a sword, this really cool thing called Carrion Grandeur. It's this giant sword that you charge up, and then chop. It's a really cool spell. I've used that before. There's the Kamehameha Blast. That's like this just laser beam that goes. There's some cool magic stuff, for sure. They both have really cool things. Like all the lightning stuff that we did with that build, that's all incantations. That's all faith. So magic would be... I mean, I wish I could show. Actually, let me do something. I have one of my builds that I did way back when, before trying to stream anything. So this build, it's not optimized by any means, but it's 75 intelligence. It's kind of hard to see here. 20 dex, 20 strength, 20 endurance, vigor, mind. But it uses a Moonveil katana, which is a kind of a magic and dex scaling things. So, for example, like, you know, it has the little abilities, shoot out some magics, like that. But we also have our staff, so we can, you know, do different types of magics, like the spiral, different stars, of course, glintstone pebble, which is just like casting stuff. You can use like Loretta's great bow. You know, stuff like that. Let me drink a little drink. The Cannon of Haima. Boom. And then Kamazur, which is the Kamehameha. Like that. Do I delete the builds once finished? Not always. No. Some I keep around. Like if I want to go into PvP for anything. Yeah, that's an example of like, those are spells. Requires a staff in order to cast them. And then of course there are weapons like the Moonveil, which has magic capabilities built into it, so it can do its own little, you know, chops and stuff like that. But sending out little beams like that and stuff. So that's an example. Let me go back here. Yeah, so that's like magic stuff. Spells, you have staff, you cast things with your staff. Or scepter, as some of them are called. So, you know, there's various ideas. But I'm kind of leaning. Let's see. Oh, you say that would be cool. What about you, Doc? Now that I've shown a little bit of magics. You like magics? Or we can lean towards the Pyromancer Duelist combination we were talking about. With straight swords and fires and things like that. Or we could just backtrack and go something off the wall. Again, there's all the gravity stuff that I still, at some point, want to dive into. Whips. Whips and chains, handcuffs. You know, make Luda proud. Got all kinds of options. We just gotta, you know, we gotta figure it out. Builder reminds you of Battle Mage you're working on. Nice. Doc says, "Let's go." What are we gonna go for, Doc? Though that's the question. But yeah, kind of that one that I was just demonstrating is basically like a Battle Mage, basically. Trying to think here. Prophet, yeah, that prophet starts with pyro, of course. Prisoner starts with thrusting sword, which makes things a little easier to start with, but it's intelligence. So putting the fire on there wouldn't quite work on that. Mr. Kristoff's here. Ayo, you can help us out too. We're trying to figure out what the next build is. Trying to figure it out. We had a, you know, a couple of choices earlier. I don't know if, yeah, we had Pyromancer as an option. We had Duelist, which is basically using like 2 thrusting swords, poke, poke, poke. We had a gravity build. I knew you were gonna say that. I knew you were gonna say that. Finish the assassin build. Honestly, if I do an assassin build, I would want to start it over and try to figure out some stuff about where I went wrong with it, because it just wasn't clicking the way I was hoping for it to. And honestly, daggers, because they're fast attacks and you know, just fast, sneak, stab, they're a lot better suited for blade builds, to be honest. What exactly went wrong with it? It just wasn't, at least for me, it wasn't quite clicking the way that I wanted it to. Like, it's like I had a vision in my mind of what this assassin build would look like, and it just wasn't quite, just wasn't quite there. I want to figure it out. I was thinking at one point of making a raptor assassin build where we use, obviously, raptor's black feathers, we use claws, and do lots of jumps, and but essentially that would also become like a bleed build, essentially. Let's see, Kai says a battle mage would be super entertaining. Could be. The part about being a battle mage is trying to figure out all the things that can go with it. Because there are a ton of spell options. I know I've also kind of, at least internally, up here in the noodle. You like that build that I showed? Cool. Well, thank you. The what I've thought about in my head was more of a magic-based assassin that uses, like, say, for example, the night sorcery, so like night comet and stuff like that, which the nice thing there, let's see, do a gravity build, go run down his pockets, take a sword for the build. That's exactly what we would do. We would also try to go get the ruins great sword. We would use gravity sorceries as well. That would be the idea. Big swords, gravity sorceries. There you go. That's the idea. At least for the gravity build, I should say. But with a sneaky assassin, that's more on the int side for spells. The night sorceries, because they're invisible to enemies in PvE, they can't see them, so they can't dodge them, which I think is an interesting thing. And then, of course, stuff like I showed, like Loretta's great bow, can do some sniping from a distance. But the usual kind of stuff, like, glintstone pebble, it's like, that doesn't really quite work. The slicer, the carrion slicer, could be there as a backup of something getting close. Carrion slicer, you can just basically real quick. We got ideas. But Mr. Kristoff gave you an idea. We had Pyromancer is another choice we were talking about. There's a gravity build, like I was saying. The duelist one with using like 2 thrusting swords, kind of that idea. Let's see, why don't you just respec the assassin build, do the night sorceries and all the stuff you mentioned? Well, that would be, it's possible for us to do it, but I would want to do, since we're doing streams of all these builds, I'd want to start it from the beginning to the end. So that way people, if they see it and they're like, oh, how do I do this? They can see it. That's why I'd want to start it over, if we did that. But another build I was thinking is using whips. And specifically, I really wish I could remember who this was. They were using a whip in their, their main hand. They were parrying as well. And then would switch to like the Misericordia for some crits. Granted, they were doing it in PvP. I don't know how well it would do in PvE, but we could also just make a PvP interesting build too, and not really worry too much about PvE. Granted, we'd have to run around PvE to get our stuff, so there's that. But that would force me to get good at parrying, which I'm not. Glass cannon build. Run around naked, light rolling, do crazy damage. And Kai, you like the battle mage build? Yeah, I'm kind of leaning away from the battle mage build just because I've done it already. If I dip back into sorceries again, I'd want to do something a little different, but I don't know what specifically. The glass cannon would force it better at dodging. That's true. That is true. A light roll Like, always be at light roll capabilities. And then be able to just pump out a crazy amount of damage. Which would mean we would need to get... Oh, what is that thing? I think it's the blue feather branch sword? Nope, that's not it. It's another talisman, and I can't remember the name of it, but I'll know it when I see it. Blue Dancer Charm, that's it. I knew it was blue. Yeah, it raises attack power with a lower equip load, so we would need to get that if we go with Glass Cannon. So that's an option too. If we were to look at a potential Glass Cannon build, we could do a couple of interesting things there. I'm trying to, like, look and think, like... I mean, clearly some people want to do the mage glass cannon, but I would rather not. I would rather be more melee. Do something centered around Melania's sword. But it's such, like, yeah, it's... I mean, it's a katana. So that kind of goes back to our Ronin one. Gave you a really fun Skyrim idea. Well, good. That's good. Glad I could help out there. Yeah, not really sure, because I want to do all of these builds. That's the problem, is do all this stuff. You're going to try to recreate the amazing Battle Mage? Nice. What builds have I already done? Okay, so let's come back to the game. Let's go back. So, builds that I've already got. So there's my, basically it's Battle Mage kind of build. This is our Lightning Ronin that we just did, so Faith and Dexterity. There's Darth Maul, which was basically Arcane, little Faith, little Dex. This is just a classic Bleed build. This was Strength and Faith, 2 great swords, jump attacks, clack. This is the Assassin that hasn't been finished. The Albunga, our Strength build that we did. More Cowbell, that's the one we just finished. That's our Reaper. And the basic Bleed Beesh was the Bleed build that we were trying, but I didn't really like that one. So that's what I've done already. So I know there's tons of other potential ideas out there. But I just can't decide, which is why I'm asking you guys. Like, what are we gonna do? You know, that's why we're here, is to figure this out and then get it started and then, you know, see where it goes. But we got to do a little theory crafting first of what we're looking for, what weapons, all that fun stuff. So we just got to figure all that out. That's the tricky part. Let's see. Question for the Battle Mage? Go ahead. Kai, ask away. While you're doing that, I'm just looking at... I'm on the wiki, of course. Have that pulled up all the time, just for references and things. But just looking at the different, like, the weapon classes for stuff. And I'm just looking at things that I have or have not used. Do I mind going back so I can see what I'm using? Sure. Sure. Let's go back. Glass Cannon Sorcery build. It's not melee, so you don't have to dodge as much. But what happens if we run out of FP? If we run out of FP. Straight sorcery. Oh, goodness. All right, Kai, so I got the build pulled up. We're using a katana, the moon veil, a staff, and then just a mixture of some heavy armors and also Melania's helm. Because we took her head off and put it on top of our own. That's what we got. Yeah, hopefully that helps. Unless you're needing to see something else, Kai. What you say? Artist Ruby new to Sweet Time AO! How's it going? You have a way of redoing this? Nice, Kai. Okay. So, Mr. Sweet Time, you can also help us. Mr. Kristoff wants to see a pure, straight sorcery glass cannon. Kai wants to see a battle mage. I didn't see what... I think Doc wanted the duelist build that I was talking about, which is basically dual-wielding straight sword, straight thrusting. Won't run out of FP as a sorcery of a crazy amount. As you allocate your flash properly, if you run out of FP, everything's sure to be dead, or you have no aim. Fair point. Now, you would obviously go lots of mind, for sure. Keep that FP total high. I believe the astrologer starts with the highest mind and int. I believe 15 and what was it? Whoop. Yeah, 15 mind and 16 int. The fun thing, though, is with the astrologer, I can take on the little tree sentinel that's right outside the start of the game. I can take it on real early because it's really easy to beat with the astrologer. Let's see, I just think it'll be a good change build since everything has been melee so far. That's a fair point. All right, you know what? Let's try it. Let's try pure, the purest of pure mages. The purest of pure. Just sorceries. No melee. We can try it. I think we can do it. Now, since we're doing that, katana. Here, I'll type it in for you. Let me do this. Oh, there. There you go. It's magic. That's what we're gonna do. So now we need to do a bit of stuff when it comes to figuring out, like, you know, some talismans we want to get, as an example. Gonna have a blast. Nice. All right, so if we're looking, let's see. There's a Cerulean Amber Medallion, which will raise maximum FP. The Cerulean Seed Talisman, which will boost the FP regeneration. Now, here's the thing. Once we get to Renala, we could have a bit of a problem, as she resists all of the magic. That's a bit of a problem, potentially. But we can go gravity, like more physical sorceries for her. So there's that. There is that as well. Just looking up some other things here. Don't fight her then? No. We definitely want to fight her. That's the thing. We definitely want to do that. So, let's see. Actually, what I'm going to do is I am going to stop this particular stream just so that way I can actually start the real one since we're here. So you may have to refresh the home page. Let's see. Oh, real quick. Rules of the build. 9% of the damage from sorcery. If you want to hit someone with your staff, go ahead. You're only allowed enough vigor to take 2 hits from boss and light roll. My goodness. Okay. So just bear with me 1 second. I think those rules are fair. I think they're interesting. I may forget them. Not gonna lie. But, like I said, I'm going to stop this stream of figuring out what we're gonna do. And then we're gonna start up a new one. I just gotta, make sure it says we're here for the Meiji business. So, just hang on. Give me like a minute or so. Refresh the page, and we'll be right back.